Hi, this is 365801 and this is another 2022 year in BL review video, and this is a video all about some disappointing reads. So I have gone through my DNFs, I've gone through my overhyped, and now I'm going to go through my disappointing reads. I've still got surprising to do as well as the worst and the best. I do have to say that some of these disappointing reads could have been in overhyped. Some of the overhyped could have been in disappointing. Generally because you have expectations. And in the same way that there will be surprising reads, it's all about expectations. It's all about the viewpoint going into the read. So if I think something's going to be good and it's not, then I'm disappointed. If I don't think something's going to be good and it turns out it is, then I'm going to be pleasantly surprised. So unfortunately, a lot of this comes down to my overall outlook on life, specifically towards the book that I'm about to read, and then how it pans out in the reading. Now, some of these books, once again, I've given some really good ratings to. I have maybe given them 3, 4, or 5 stars. But there will be something about them that is disappointing, or it might be an aspect or something. So yeah, let's go through some disappointing reads. Now, the first one I'm going to be talking about is actually 2, and it's kind of more along the lines of an author, and that is Lynn Van Dorn's releases for 2022. Yeah, I have read a lot of Lynn Van Dorn's works, if not almost all of them. Some that I haven't. There's one that's just been released in 2023. I'm looking forward to reading that as usual. But generally I have read a lot, and I even did a reviewing all of Lynn Van Dorn's works before. I'm a big fan of Lynn Van Dorn. Generally, she's like an automatic 5-star, like mostly 4 or 5 stars, very few 3s. I don't think I've given anything less than a 3-star, so that's pretty good for an author. But there were 2 things that were released, and the very first thing was part of the Book Boyfriends giveaway. So this was a free read, so I'm quite happy that it was a free read, and it was Misconduct, and it was part of a North Shore Stories kind of related, but it also had a few to do with the Oleander as well. This is an age gap romance, and I'm not such a fan of age gap, which is why I haven't already read the one that was released just a few days ago, because it's also an age gap one, and I'm not a huge fan of age gap. In fact, both of these were age gaps. Has she just written 3 age gap? Oh dear. I only gave this a 3-star, mainly because it's Maxie's story, and Maxie is a character who I absolutely love. Maxie is sassy and fun and smart and sexy and just fierce fabulousness. Yes, these are all the words. Derek was kind of boring. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. This hurts so much to say. This hurts because I love Lynn Van Dorn, and I read it. I just devoured it. Thought it was great. Enjoyed myself. But also at the same time felt that Maxie, who I love, deserved someone more interesting than Derek. He just was a big guy and old. And that was kind of it. I was like, maybe that is who Maxie needs. Maybe that's the kind of person that Maxie deserves to have. You know, someone who will love him. And I want Maxie to get someone who loves him. But also, I think he deserves someone special. And Derek was just a little bit boring. Yeah, I don't know. It was just a little bit like meh. So I only gave it a 3-star, which is low for a Lynn Van Dorn story. But yeah, so that was kind of a bit disappointing. The other one was Out of Control. This is a North Shore story. This is the number 3 book in the series. North Shore Stories, I think, I think it's like my second or third book from Lynn Van Dorn. The first one obviously being A Tale of Two Princes, Royally Screwed, love. I gave this one 4 stars, but with a huge caveat. And I honestly think that there was an unedited proof version uploaded instead of the final version, because it was riddled with errors, grammatical errors, spelling errors, name errors. I read through it and it hurt my soul because I'm a natural proofreader. I am so good at pointing out other people's flaws and mistakes. Oh, that is my it's like my calling in life. Years and years and years of being a teacher, years and years and years of having to read other people's crappy English has really honed my skills. And so if I had to write, I would probably be absolutely terrible at it because I can't see my own flaws and mistakes, and I'm self-editing all the time. No great reflection, I know, on my own self. But other people's writing, I am really, really good at being nitpicky and getting them to create the best. I would be an amazing editor or proofreader. If you need me to proofread, great. Let me know. Maybe I can help you out. You know, mates rates and all. I maybe have to start doing that as a side job. But Out of Control is a story. It's got an age gap romance. It's got a young character who waits until he's old enough. He's very much the aggressor in some respects. It's a very difficult dynamic between the two of them. I still enjoyed this book. It introduced me to voluntold, which I just think is a great word. When someone else has volunteered you for something, you've been voluntold. And I just like, chef's kiss, brilliant. There was all the things that I loved about Lynn Van Dorn's writing, except it was riddled with errors. And it's so difficult to read something when it's like that. So for me, this is disappointing purely because I think someone has accidentally uploaded an unedited proof copy and everyone has read it now, and there's unfortunately there's still people saying things that it's not. So I don't know if it's ever been corrected. I want to go in and correct it. Please let me edit this book for you. I've practically done it anyway, because sometimes when I'm reading, and I have done this for ARCs as well, if I get a copy and I come across an error, I'll flag the page. And then I have actually done this for another author. It was one of her new works that came out. She's been doing it for a couple of years now, but the very first book that I read, I came across like 12 different errors that were really quite serious and annoying for me. And so I said, you know, I found 12 errors, and this is supposed to be already, you know, proofread by someone, because I saw the name of the person who's proofread this, but they've obviously not done a very good job. And so she said, oh, could you actually tell me where those pages are? So I wrote it up. It took me about an hour, you know, of my life to do this for this author. But I felt like, you know, this is important because I don't want someone else to have that experience. So I'm warning you, Out of Control may still have errors. It should not have. It should have been edited by now. And it also makes me feel like, did Lynn Van Dorn not have a great year? And I'm worried now. I'm feel really like a parasocial relationship for my authors. Sometimes I feel like this, like, are you okay? I hope you're okay, because I love and respect you, and I really, really want to keep on reading your works, but I don't want to feel bad about going in. And if you need an editor, I will edit. I'm very good at it. Anyway, enough about Lynn Van Dorn. We're going to go on to another author, and that is Lily Morton. Oh no! Oh no! Now I haven't done reading all of Lily Morton video yet, because I still have one that I need to read. But as you can see, I have read the majority of her work, and they've all been 4, 5 stars. The Cuckoo's Call is the only one I haven't read yet, and I may have purchased a physical copy that's winging its way to me in the post. Shh. But as you can see, there is The Sceptic with 3 stars. and that's one of her new ones that was released this year, and it's a spin-off from The Quiet House and Blue Billings. She also had Sunnyside that was released. So we've got The Sceptic. Here we are, 3 stars. Why? Why was it a disappointment? It was very good. It was very scary. It was very much a fantastic, spooky story. What I felt when it comes to both of the works that she released this year, it just felt a little bit samey in terms of her writing. I felt like it's there's certain turns of phrases and certain things that she does in her writing that I've seen in all her other books, or many of her books, and so it becomes a little bit samey. And so I felt like this book had so much more potential to be a little bit different, to be a little bit more serious, or to be presented in a slightly different way, or to just have, once again, a proofreader go through your work and say, hey, Lily, are you sure you want to continue to use the same phrase, over and over again in every single book you release? Or, hey, do you want to use the same phrase 2 or 3 times in the same book? I pick up on these things. When I say I'm pernickety, I mean it. And so, yeah, unfortunately, The Sceptic, although I loved it, it was great, and very scary. It was so scary. I just felt like the romance and the way that romance was presented didn't quite hit in the same way. I'm still looking forward to the next one and hope that it's going to be good. The other one that she released was The Sunny Side, and I think it was even clearer in this one that it just felt very samey. And that's after, I read this back in, first published September, so I read it like pretty much September 6th, that's when I read it. So it came out that day, I read it that day. The very first time I ever read any Lily Morton was like the last weekend of October last year when I read Blue Billings. That was the very first time. So I've read all of her works, bar one, in like a 10-11 month period. That's shocking. I have one more to read and then that's us up to date. But this one, after having read all of these works and loving all of the works, this one came at me with a The other thing was that Dean has such a distinctive personality in the first few books that he appears in, that in this one it was too much of a change. He's still a lovely guy, but you just have this sort of lack of the distinctive features of him. And so many people did say that this was a perfectly serviceable book, great, but there was an element lacking in Dean's personality that shone through in the other books that didn't quite. He was a changed person, and I know that part of that was to do with the overuse of marijuana to calm him down and self-medication. And I don't know, I think I'd have to do a little bit more research on that to see if that was necessarily the case, because I don't know personally enough about it. But yeah, it felt a little bit disappointing just because it was a bit samey in the writing. I would like Lily to develop her writing, which seems very arrogant of me, I know. But, if you read all of her books in quick succession, it's like, that's kind of very samey. I don't know. Elements like that. Anyway, on to some single books. This is Power Plays and Straight A's. Disappointing. Why? Because I started reading this as an audiobook and I do not like one of the narrators. One of the narrators is fine. The other one is just so American. Oh my god. I hate it. And the thing is, I love this book. I went back and I evaluated and re-reviewed it. So I've given it 4 stars now because it deserves 4 stars, because actually it's a great book. And it's not anyone's favourite. I don't think anyone's favourite is the book 1. I think everyone's favourite is like book 2. I actually like many in the series, but I wanted to give it another go because reading it versus listening to an audiobook that I wasn't enjoying really does make a difference. So yeah, I recommend reading rather than audiobook if you are not American. If you're American, then it probably doesn't make any difference. But for me, an overly preppy jock voice just doesn't do it for me. I'm not a fan. Anyway, on to another one. This is The Magic Between, which was supposed to be like I think it's supposed to be young adult, or is it adult? Here's the thing. Some young adult / new adult books, I can never tell what they are. But this one came out, had a bit of hype, so it could have been in the overhyped section, but it was kind of minimal. So Stephanie Hoyt, this was a great premise, and it had parts of it where it was great, and parts of it that I wanted to DNF. I couldn't quite get it. The pacing was all over the place. But yet the premise was brilliant, and the first chapter was amazing. And I liked where it was going at times, and then it kind of became a completely different story. And I just wish that she made more out of the whole magic world, because the magic system is complex and different and interesting, and it feels like there should be, you know, spin-off books and other stories for these characters, or the characters that they're friends with. But it just was kind of a letdown, because the premise was brilliant, the execution lacked. On to another YA, and this is Icebreaker by A.L. Graziadei. And unfortunately, I love this. I love this book. It was a little bit long, probably could have done with a wee bit more editing, as far as I'm concerned. A YA. Sports. Mental health. The mental health rep in this was too accurate. Too accurate. Oof. And of course it's YA, so I'm like, how old are these? I don't know. But there's a moment when they're having to just hold each other's hand and like, oh, that scene, when they're looking at each other's eyes, oh, that scene, it killed me, I loved it. So there's definitely bits in this that I absolutely loved. Now I'm putting this in the disappointing section because I did a whole review of this, and I did mention it in my review. There's a whole thing about this, but because it's ice hockey, and every ice hockey, you know, thing needs to be about getting drafted, and it's like, who's going to be the first pick on the draft, which doesn't matter. And in some cases this has been dealt with by not getting either of the members drafted first, having someone else drafted first. And I think that's what could have been done at the end of this book. You know, it was like, oh, is it this person or is it this person? You know, they're looking at each other. Oh, is it going to be you? Is it going to be me? And she didn't want to commit. And I feel like that was kind of like that was the only way it could have gone. But actually, I think it could have gone a different way. And my suggestion is, give it to someone else who's awesome. And then they come in like second or third or something like that, you know? But it still would have been who comes in first between the two of them. Who gets drafted? Who gets the draft pick first? So yeah, that was the one thing. It was right at the end, and it just ended. And I'm letting you know now, I'm kind of spoiling it for you if you haven't read already. We don't know who gets picked first. It just ends, and I'm like, that's hanging on a... That's kind of... I'm like, that's a bit... It's not lazy, it's just a choice, and it's not a choice I would have made. On to another one, and that is The Queer Principles of Kit Webb. Now, this got a bit of hype as well for being historical, LGBT, Cat Sebastian. This was the first, and so far only, Cat Sebastian I've read, and I gave it 4 stars. It was great. Unfortunately, I went in thinking it was going to be a KJ Charles-esque, and it is, but it's not quite at the level of KJ Charles for me. And it, once again, it was overly long. 300. I don't know what's with all of these books that almost all of the books I'm moaning about were like more than 300 pages. Maybe I should just limit. It's got to be 300. If it's over, you're not gonna like it. Maybe that's something I'm learning about myself. They just felt a little bit overly long, and therefore pacing issues came into it. This was quite good. It had lots of interesting discussions, but also Did I need to? I wouldn't mind reading the second book in the London Highwayman series. Yeah, it was good, but it wasn't brilliant, and it certainly wasn't KJ Charles level. Sorry, Kat. It was great. I gave it 4 stars. On to another one. Ooh, this was kind of disappointing. There's been a few times when I've seen names of authors people talk about, and I'm like, okay, I have to read there. And 2022, I read a lot of new to me authors that are quite prolific male romance authors, and then just read one book and went, nah. I did it in 2021 as well. So Annabeth Albert, I'm sorry, but Shore Leave #1, Sailor Proof, was not it. I gave it 3 stars. I was bored. Oh no! I was really bored. Oh no, no, I didn't like it. It was all about in fact the guys, I didn't like the characters. Naval Chief Derek Fox. He can fuck off. I didn't like him at all. A guy, he like pimps out his younger brother to his best pal because he needs to be seen to be snogging someone when he gets off the ship. Fuck off. Get over yourselves. Honestly, I was like, nah, not interested. And then the rest of it, I was just like, no, bored. The family seemed fun. That was the best bit, was the family. But also I was kind of bored of that as well, unfortunately. This was one that was so hyped and promoted, and loads of people were like, oh, so good, and I was like, this is so boring. So I'm really sorry. I need to find another Annabeth Albert title. I have a few digitally. I'm gonna read more from her. I'd love some recommendations. But then I say that and then I'll read them and be disappointed. No, I've got some that I think I will enjoy. So hopefully I'm definitely going to give her another choice and chance for redemption. Okay, on we go to some manga. And obviously, I'm sorry to say, you knew it was coming. Love Stage. This is a disappointment. Mainly because I had a memory of this as being something, and then when I reread it and sort of went back to it after a few years, it was something else. And it felt more toxic than it had originally. And it's not that old. 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016. So it's not that old, but it kind of does have some elements that felt old BL tropey, and sexual assault being kind of just swept under the rug. I liked that at times it addressed it, but at other times it just didn't. And I don't think falling in love with someone who assaults you is a good look. Sorry. Sorry, Iki Taishizao. It's not a good look. This is 2023. Get with the program. So yeah, it's not that old, but it still had some of the older tropes that don't sit well with me, as did Love is Like a Hurricane. This was disappointing because Katie had said, oh, I loved this when I read it back in the day. It was great. And then we both read it and we're like, oof, ouch. And because this is older, I almost give it not a free pass, but I give it more of a pass than something that's more recent when it comes to things that I find distasteful, like sexual assault that ends up being love. Because I'm like, nah, it's 2023, it's not a good look. But this is older, it's an 8-1 title, so, harder to get hold of. I have a whole reading vlog of these two if you want to go and watch them. It's interesting, and I love the fact that I was able to read both of these titles with Katie. It makes such a difference having someone to bounce your ideas off of. On to another one. Oh my god, this one, I don't want to talk about this. So a little bit like Icebreaker, like you get to the end of something and you're like, oh, well, is that how they ended it? Oh. And I love The Night Beyond the Tri-Cornered Window. Since the very first volume was released by Sublime digitally, I have read it and reread it every single volume that's come out. So when volume 2 came out, I reread volume 1, read volume 2. When volume 3 came out, reread volume 1 and 2, read volume 3. Every single year they've released a new one, I have reread the whole series to be fully immersed and prepared for the next volume and fully excited for it. And volume 10 was a super important volume because it was the culmination of this 10-volume series. And the way that it ended, it just kind of felt a bit like, kind of that was the only way it could have ended, but also kind of slightly disappointing. I feel like Tomoko Yamashita could maybe release a whole new series with these characters, and I would just eat that up. Give me more. More, give me more. Give me more. give me more. I want more from these characters, especially when it comes to the main characters and their relationship, as well as how they navigate going forward without this heavy history, how they deal with the history that they both have, and what it means. Oh, there's a lot still I think needed to be unpacked, and they didn't unpack it. And I'd like to see how they're getting on now. Like maybe five years down the line, can we have all of the characters 5 years later? Wouldn't that be great? So yeah, it was disappointing in the way that it ended because it just kind of petered out rather than have a really conclusive ending. And at the same time, I'm happy that it didn't, because I would really like for her to just create more of these so I can read it. I want more. That's just how it is. Okay, on to some physical volumes that I had. Now, these ones are all ones that are kind of similar. Hey Sensei by Yaya Sakuragi. Boys Love by Kaimu Tachibana. Mistress Volume 2 by Shimbariz. And The Summit Volume 1 by Lee Young-hee. These are all white whales that I searched high and low for, that I really wanted, that I was super excited about. Hey Sensei I gave 4 stars to. It's kind of more like a 3. The other ones are all 2 stars, and that's because they were difficult to get hold of. I didn't spend massive amount of money on it, any of them, like maybe recommended retail price, but it was just because they were white whales and I really wanted them. And then I read them and they were like, oh, is that it? I should have known Hey Sensei was a student-teacher relationship, which I'm not a big fan of. Boys Love, I still have no idea what that was about. No idea. What a weird story. Mistress, such a shame, because volume 1 was great. It was really interesting, and then it kind of petered out and was stupid. And The Summit, that is a hot mess, but in kind of in the best way, but also the worst way. There's only 12 reviews and 163 ratings, so my rating is pretty low compared to the average. I think this might have been different if the rest of the series was published, because only volume 1 was published by Drama Queen. So there you go. The last one I'm going to talk about, because this is getting long, is Bloom, and it's a Goodreads Choice Award, so it really could have gone in the overhyped section, but I decided to put it here because it wasn't massively hyped, but loads and loads of people have said this is a really good one. What a great graphic novel. It's got male romance, LGBT, young adult, queer. And this is by Kevin Panetta and Savannah Ganucho. And the reason I was more hyped for it than probably even that other people had hyped it was because I tried to buy it 3 times. And twice, even though I purchased it, the sellers came back and said, sorry, it's not available. And so the purchase was cancelled twice with Bloom, and it hasn't happened any other time with any other title. So the third time I finally got it, and I got it for an even better price than I would have paid for it the previous two times. I think I got it for like less than £5, something like that. So I really should be that disappointed. And I gave it 3 stars. It's fine. It just wasn't as amazing as I thought it was going to be. And that's my fault, because I had expectations. So once again, all of these books that I've mentioned, I've given, like, you know, some are 2 stars, some are 4 stars, some are 5 stars. You know, there's a mixture, and it's just mainly because of my expectations going in that I might be disappointed by something. So yeah, it's one of those things. Expectations are funny. The next video will be all about my expectations being low and then me being pleasantly surprised. So that's a good one to look forward to. I hope none of this was too disappointing for you. Remember, I'm giving like fairly good star ratings for a lot of these. I'd love to know your most disappointing reads of 2022. Let me know in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed this. Hope this wasn't too painful. I hope I wasn't too harsh. I think it was more harsh than the overhyped. I gave a lot of them 5 stars. So yeah, well, and maybe I'm calming myself down. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Take care, everyone. I will see you in the next video. Oh yeah, I'm 365. Wait, what? I should do that, shouldn't I? I make videos about BL manga, yeah, male romance and all that good stuff. Yeah, take care, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.